document so she can share it.
Okay, I'm looking for it now.
Okay, great. We'll get started and then just let me know. And
I'm not seeing it, so I don't know if what she means by she resent it. It's not attached. It's part of the SharePoint, so it's not an attached PDF to the email.
yep, she'll do that. Okay, so we have like 3 other attendees. I think there was 4 at one time. So, but I'm gonna make sure they can see well. So they might be able to see speaker. So, all right, we're gonna get started. Hello to the 4 people that are attending. Thank you for being here. Just raise your hand and let Austin know if you have any trouble or any questions. I'll be trying to watch the attendees for your hand to go up, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. And we have several people in the room, and we're going to have the speakers come when they present to come stand here so you can hear them clearly. So thank you for joining us all. Hi, everybody. Great to see you all. What a wonderful day. Gorgeous day. It was a week ago. Today, I was actually driving through the south rim of the Grand Canyon. I got stuck in a snowstorm. It was -7 degrees, and there was a tour bus stuck on the hill with several of their cars, and we just sat back there and waited. Just thought we're not going to join the crowd on the hill. So I see the snow again today, and I never thought ever I'd be stuck in a snowstorm in Grand Canyon, but that was a nice little experience with that. I took a couple days off and got my husband out of the emergency room and let him get outside, and so that was important. Anyway, it was really great to see all of you today. I really want to thank you all for coming. This is a really important topic for me, and I'm really thrilled for the experts that we have in the room. I'm not the expert in these things, but it is something that's near and dear to my heart. My family and I have been involved in emergency medicine and services for over 30 years. And so something that I feel as residents, can we hear me okay still? As residents, that we have to be active participants in our communities, and this is one area that I think is very important to have that knowledge and be active resident, getting involved with what you can to be involved with helping our emergency services in our communities safely evacuate folks, or we are involved with helping be proactive and preventative. And so there's a lot of work going on at the state and legislation and in our communities. And recently the Larimer County Board of County Commissioners approved changes to our updated emergency preparedness plan, which is a packet about this thick, right, Stephen? I took a picture with it. It's on my phone if you want to see it. And it's something that's been carried around our Office of Emergency Manager Director's car for a while, and she carries it with us to meetings. But it is a plan I'm sure Chief Wolf has signed on and has his parts in there, and we have all of our partners. And I wanted to just let you know that they are constantly updating it, meeting. And there will be some, I can't say when, but there'll be some very soon, some critical and incident practice and things going on. And they do that several times a year as well. And so I'm gonna be actually getting the chance to go and view one of those. And I've been warned that I won't get to sit there. I will be working. So that's great. I appreciate that. So this is an opportunity. I did one in Loveland. We're going to do one in Berthoud, and we're doing one here in Estes Park. They did one in LaPorte a few weeks ago. And so we're just trying to get across the county and educate folks. And I'm just really want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the folks that are here, that are from around the county, that are the folks that work together and help provide these services and this information. So I'm going to introduce them all. And I'm going to shut up and get out of the way because we're here to listen from them. We'll have a little bit of time at the end to talk. So first I'm going to introduce them, and then I think we'll start probably with Stephen. I think that worked out well first to Stephen happened last time, and then kind of work around the room. So, I appreciate Chief Wolf being here as well. We had the new Loveland Fire Chief, Chief Sendel back. I always want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. And so I'm grateful for that he came to the Loveland one. So thank you for being here, Chief. Really grateful for your work. And I rave about you all the time. When I go around, when I was at NACO, the National Association of Counties, I said, oh, we've got some amazing fire chiefs in our rural areas that are doing great work. So, and I brought your name up specifically. So Hope your ears were burning. So first I'd like to introduce representing our Office of Emergency Management, which is now located, if you don't know, where we have a new office building where it has a strategic location, and it shares a building with the Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority and the City of Loveland. And they have an incident command center with great internet and backup internet, which we learned from our all those folks that do the backup stuff like that. We had a meeting yesterday, and of course we heard about all the cyber attacks. And just so you know, I think we're way ahead of the game, and we'll learn most counties kind of prevent that, having backup systems. And I'm really proud of that work, but it is pricey to have those systems. So, and that is making sure that center has its connection and internet, and that is located, if you didn't know, in Johnstown near Shields. So it's strategically located so they can get access. So they won't be right next to the emergency, but they'll be able to access it, and the state and FEMA and Department of Homeland Security come there. And I've been there. We opened it a couple days before the Black Hollow incident, if you remember that unfortunate incident where we lost some souls. We had a ribbon cutting, and then boom, here it comes. And so it got a lot of use, and it was amazing to see it already in action. So Stephen Decatur is from that office, and he will be sharing. And then we also have Kimberly Pope from the Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority, who does amazing work. Glad she's here, and I forgot who your guest is already. I apologize.
It's Megan.
Megan, and she's from the Estes Park 911 Emergency Communication. So thank you for being here. Very glad for that. And then, and drawing a blank, don't forgive me. Karen Krumbaker, because we just talked about you this morning. I asked Stephen to reach out to you from CSU Extension, who, if you don't know about CSU Extension, you should. It's amazing. It's across the whole state, and there's so many different resources. They've been in my backyard or my property to tell me what kind of bugs I have, which I found out I had really good bugs, and they actually took the bag because they thought I had great bugs for my crops. So that was awesome. And I was like, cool, I don't want to spray anything anyway, but it's great to know that they love my bugs. And they also have this emergency preparedness page and packets and information. So I asked them to be here today because there's a lot of things we can do. So we're not scrambling, throwing everything into bags and laundry baskets to evacuate, right? Which I almost did with the Cameron Peak fire, but I started really planning, and I've got bags and things packed out. And then we have, like I said, Fire Chief David Wolf, who I think is outstanding. And I'm very grateful that he and his family reside here in Larimer County, Estes Park. And I credit with him a lot of the work that they do and evacuation that happened, unfortunately, in 2020. I think everyone made it out safely, and I think that's due to the coordination with the Fire Chief and our emergency management and others. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen. And so Stephen's going to hear, everybody hearing okay still? Okay, great, Stephen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Decatur. I'm with the Office of Emergency Management. So two things that I want to talk about with everyone today are preparedness and mitigation. And those two things are really important because it's not something that we in our office can do so much. It's something that you all have to do. And so we want to be a resource to the community to help you do those things. So I brought a few things here in person that I wanted to make sure I shared with you all. Let's see, I brought a new forest health guide. This is from the Colorado State Forest Service. They just came out with this like last week, so it's pretty new. I have a Larimer Connects Resiliency Guide, and this will kind of guide you into becoming more resilient. There's some good information in there as well. But one other thing, I don't see it right now. But I brought a go list too. I'll find it. But I brought a go list also, and that's kind of a list of things that you should have ready to go at your door. Unfortunately, but also fortunately, you've practiced evacuations before in Estes Park, so you know how hectic it can be. So it's really important to have those things ready to go, or at least have a list ready so you don't have to think about it so much. You can just grab those things and get out. But preparedness and mitigation, again, they take a whole community. So our office does a lot of collaborative work with a bunch of partners in the area. In your area, some of the big players are the Estes Valley Watershed Coalition when it comes to fire mitigation work. I'm sure Chief Wolf knows all about them. And there's work that's happening in your area. You may not always see it, you may not always hear about it, but there is that identification of risk currently happening. I'm sure, I don't want to take whatever you're going to talk about, but I'm sure you're probably going to talk about the PD wildfire preparedness plan. So that's going on right now. There's an update with that. And there's some project areas identified here in the Estes Valley area. And the Estes Valley Watershed Coalition is really a great resource. They're kind of leading the charge in a lot of that work. So there's work ongoing with that. And I'm sure Captain Wolf will talk about that. So I'm not going to steal that from him. But we work a lot with those partners to kind of help connect those projects to funding sources in our office. So a lot of funding sources can only go through maybe the county or maybe the city in Estes Park, but we recognize that Estes Park is a smaller community and they need that support. So we're there to support when needed. And then preparedness, again, takes a lot of different players. A lot of these players are in the room, so they're going to talk a lot more about preparedness than I will. But I just want to say that we have those resources available. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to our office and we will connect you to the right person if we're not the right person. So I don't have a ton with that. That's all I'm going to say. I think some of our players that are here today have a lot more information that can connect you directly to those resources. So thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
You're a county department.
I am, yes.
And how big is your staff? What's your funding?
Yeah. So we have a staff of 5 now. So we have our director, Lori Hodges. And then there's my position, Cole and Shayle, and we are all emergency management coordinators. And then, I'm sorry, we have 6 now. We just got a new employee recently. And then we have Ricardo, who does community outreach. And we have Lauren Barnes, who just started, and she's going to be our finance person. With all the disasters we have a lot of FEMA financial stuff that's going on. We still have flood projects open from the 2013 flood because these things move slow, as you are probably aware of.
So does your funding come directly from taxpayers in Larimer County, or do you have federal funds?
So our funding comes directly from Larimer County. We do have one grant that's funding Lauren's position and right now, but generally it's funded directly through the county. And our departments expanded over the years. In 2013, we only had Lori's position. So that was, I mean, it's a big thing to handle for one person. And then we slowly added capacity over the years. And after the fire, actually, we added my position and Ricardo's position, and we just got Lauren this year. So we have expanded greatly in the last couple of years. And it seems like no matter how much we expand, there's always more to do. And so we don't expect these disasters to get any less. And so we do a lot of behind the scenes drills, getting all our partners in a room together and doing those emergency activation preparedness workshops. So that's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. Yeah.
Different kind of question. Yeah. When we have an emergency, not like commercial fire, people need to be notified. How do you keep that risk current?
So that's a good question for Kimberly. So she's with LETA 911. And if there's any other questions for me, this might be a good hand over to her. But if there's anything else for me, I'm happy to answer that now. Oh yeah. I do have one thing in the chat, so let me just see what that is. Nope, that's it. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Kimberly with LETA 911, and she's the person that does notifications for the county.
And Austin, can you share the screen now?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Kimberly Pope. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority. So our acronym is LETA, or LETA 911. We are a government agency. We're not a vendor. I'm not here to sell you anything. We are a government agency. So we are local government. We are formed through an intergovernmental agreement. We have 30 government partners we support. So we would be that overarching umbrella with 30 government partners underneath us. And in that intergovernmental agreement, that's where what we're charged to do is outlined. So we oversee when you dial 911, how that call gets routed to our 911 operation centers, which we have 5 in Larimer County, and we have 1 that's local. And Megan is my guest today. She is the director for the local 911 center here, and actually the buildings here just next door. So From a 911 perspective, we oversee the programs, the technology. So when they perform CPR over the phone or deliver babies, that's all the program that we fund and we oversee. Megan would oversee the staff, and then we just make sure that the calls and everything is being handled properly and at the highest level of accuracy. They are an accredited center, so it's an international program we do for emergency medical dispatch, and they are one of our accredited centers, which means they are the best of the best. Emergency notifications is what I'm here to talk about, but I think the funding question is really important. Is how do we get funded? We're funded out of the 911 surcharge. That surcharge is on every phone line, and you remit that surcharge, or carrier does on your behalf. And that comes to us, and that is the only way that we're funded. That is roughly $3.2 million annually. So we have a staff of 5 as well. 5 must be the magic number right now. So we have a staff of 5 that oversees the coordination for 30 government partners and 5 911 centers. So we're incredibly busy. So from a surcharge perspective, we set that through our board. So we make the decisions on the funding piece of it. And then again, the carriers add that to your bill. It comes to us, and then we manage all the amazing programs with that. We are in that joint building, as already mentioned by the commissioner. And so we have the upstairs, they have the main floor, and at our location, we have a backup 911 center. It is what we call a hot site, which means it's logged in the ready at all times. So when your center needed to evacuate during the fires, we weren't quite ready to receive them yet. So we had just moved into the building the day after Karen Peak broke out. So, but we are ready now, and we're able to, they can evacuate, they have a place to go, and it's just like a second home. They have all the tools that they need, and there's really no stop in operations. So while they're driving there, what happens is that their backup center, which is Larimer County, or physically located in our office, we can log in and start taking your calls right away. Once the staff is there, then we just hand it off to the Estes staff, and then they take it. So continuity of operations is critically important. So we have redundancy upon redundancy upon redundancy. So I'm going to talk today about the emergency alert tools. So it is designed this way because it's not just one tool. There are multiple layers in the tools. And let me kind of pass this around to see if we can have that presentation. So let's keep it around, passing that around. And my business card is up here as well. So what I want to do is walk through these tools briefly and just describe to you what they are. And then that hopefully will answer some questions, because in order to reach you in an emergency, we know that infrastructure is going to be compromised, and we know we may lose infrastructure during an emergency. So it's important that we have multiple layers to our emergency alert system. So the first layer is this black 911 layer. That is your landline. So if you have a landline phone, you are automatically added into our emergency alert system. What we do that is different is we take that number, those landline numbers from the carriers, and we will, what we call geocode, and we will get it to your house on top of your rooftop, right where your primary house is on that parcel. So we make sure it's 100% accurate, and that you're not geocoded somewhere on the street, on a county road, across the block. We make sure that that dot is located right on top of your structure. So this is done and it's updated every month, and we do that internal. We get the information from CenturyLink, now Legal Lumen, and also Comcast. We're working with the town to get your broadband, municipal broadband phone numbers. So far, the town has not given those to us, but we are working with them and asking them to provide that information to us as well. So 911 landlines, you're in the system. We update it every single month. We make sure it's accurate and geocoded 100% to that house. The next one is the language translation, and that's the second flyer that I handed out to you. This is going to be live April 1st, and we have made a decision that we are going to send our emergency alerts in English, clear, concise, and quickly. And if you require a translation to another language, this app will support up to 103 different language translations. So we're going to send that emergency alert to this app, And whatever primary language you would prefer to receive that emergency alert in, you can set the app to Arabic, to Mandarin, to Farsi. You're going to be able to see and receive that emergency alert. We know that's critically important for this community because of all of the workers that are here in the summer and all of your tourists. And we want to make sure that they receive that emergency alert in a timely manner, but also in a language that they're going to understand what action they need to take. So this app we are working with, and we're going to be live April 1st. So I'm really excited to have that new pink layer added to our emergency alert platform. I'm not aware of anywhere else in the state of Colorado that provides language translation in their emergency alerts outside of Spanish. So we're really excited that we're going to be able to offer this to our community. And you'll know that Larimer County sets the bar ahead of the curve in a lot of areas. This is one of them. The keyword alert. You have a keyword alert specific for Estes Park called EP alerts. And this is something that we advertise to your tourist population and for all of those folks that live here, and they can sign up for EP alerts. That is specific keyword alerts where you just text the number 888777 and you send that word EP alert, and then you will get all emergency alerts in the town of Estes Park. So this is a great way for you to get a quick text message if there's an emergency alert impacting anywhere in Estes Park. If you want to get all emergency alerts in Larimer County, even if they're in Wellington, for example, or in Johnstown or Windsor, for that area that's in Larimer County, you can do the same opt-in and put in no co-alert, and then you're going to get all emergency alerts. So some people just want to know about every emergency alert that's happening countywide, and that way you can be informed. And I'm going to stop there. Those are 3 key points before I get into no co-alert. Your citizen opt-in question will come next, but I want to make sure that if you have any questions about those first 3 that I answer those first. Okay, go ahead, sir.
What's your main office and what's this redundant? I didn't understand location, physical wise.
Sure. So from a 911 dispatch center, you have a 911 dispatch center here in the town.
Understand that?
Okay, and then there are 4 other ones that are geographically dispersed.
I should have interrupted you right when you were saying, where do you work?
Out of Johnstown,
Okay,
right
so that's
south
the
of Shields.
Johnstown, south of
Yes, sir.
Shields.
And I share a building with Steven. Yeah, with Larimer County OEM and Loveland OEM is there.
Okay, and where's the backup then?
So the backup is located at our facility.
You're the backup.
We're the backup. Yes, sir. So
Oh, and the main one is in
the
our
main
town.
one is
I
here.
see, I see.
Yes, sir. Yep, the backup is at our facility. We're connected through a fiber infrastructure.
Okay.
And so everyone is connected and networked together.
Understood. And then where, if I don't have a cell phone, and I'm not saying me because I do, but if you don't have a cell phone, how do you, the language?
Unfortunately, without being able to download an app, you're not going to be able to get that language translation on your landline. Yeah.
But if you
Landlines,
did have it and the app, it would come on your landline?
nope, it just goes to the app or to your cell phone. Absolutely. So it's not 100%, but we're happy to have some solution there. All right, so the NoCo alert. This is a website that we went live with March of 2020. And this NoCo alert website, we push all of our emergency alerts out to this website, and you can see the area impacted. You'll be able to click on the area and read the emergency alert that was issued. So this website had 14.8 million views during our 2020 fires. We know that it was a fantastic communication tool for people to know what they needed to do, what area was impacted. You can also search your address as it relates to the area that is under some sort of evacuation order. So this is part of our alerting platform, and it really helps offset calls and questions that Megan's going to deal with at her center, because a lot of times people just want to know information about the evacuation area. The next one goes to the community opt-in. The community opt-in allows you to sign up to receive emergency alerts that are location-based. So you can just go to our website, that nocoalert.org website. You create an account. And when you create that account, you can enter in up to 5 different addresses, add in your cell phone to get text. You can add in your email, a pager number, And when we have something that is impacting your area, imminent threat to life that is by that geographic location, we will push out that emergency alert to the devices you registered. So this requires you to take action in the community often so you can get those different devices added in there. The next one is the white pages data. So old school here, I've been in public safety for 29 years. I remember the time that we still had yellow pages and white pages delivered to our front doors. So this is the old fashioned white pages, yellow pages data where it's publicly available numbers that are published out there. We take that data and we're adding it into our emergency alert platform. So you don't need to take any action with this whatsoever. It's just another layer for us to get those business numbers that perhaps are not the Comcast phone numbers or the CenturyLink phone numbers. The almost last one, social media. In that gray box, we push emergency alerts out to social media. I understand that some of you may follow social media for the fire chief. So Chief Woods, he's active on social media. The town's active on social media. You may follow their social media. So we will push our emergency alerts out to their social media if they've taken those steps to integrate it in our solution. That way, if people haven't signed up, they don't have a landline, they don't have the text alert, but they're following the social media, then they will still get that information. So this is a critical piece to the emergency alert platform. The last one I'm going to talk about is the iPause. iPause has multiple layers underneath it. So the overarching for integrated public alert warning system is called iPause. And underneath it, you probably have heard about WEA, the wireless emergency alerts. There's also the first one I want to talk about is the broadcasting alerts. When you push them out to your radios and your television station, you probably are used to getting those monthly test alerts that they send out. When we send out an emergency alert, we can opt in to also do the iPause. We, being the LETA staff, were trained and certified through FEMA to have the approval to push out to the iPause channels. So if I need to, I can send out to all of these different layers and select that red layer and push it out through iPause, and it will come across your radio and it will come across your televisions. We can also send out the next channel underneath there, which is called WEA, which is the wireless emergency alerts, which will then go to the cell towers. And if you are standing underneath that coverage and getting signal from that cell tower, then it will activate and push that alert to your phone. Sounds like those Amber alerts. That is exactly what it is. It's called a wireless emergency alert. So if you're getting signal on your phone and you can make a cell call, then I push out the WEA information, it will activate and push to your phone. So this is a critical layer here. The third one underneath there is the weather radios. I can push out emergency alerts to weather radios. So I highly encourage you to have a weather radio in your house. That will allow you to get an emergency alert. If you can get that signal on the radio, then I can push out any sort of police event or fire situation to that weather radio. You're used to just getting weather alerts there, but we can push out to those weather radios. So in all of this, I want to let you know that in 2020, we sent out 276 emergency evacuations for the 5 fires that impacted us. So there's 5 of them. And sometimes we selected the iPause. So during those fires, we used iPause tools 5 times. And sometimes it was for the evacuations that were called here in Estes Park. So of those events, one of them was for Wyoming, and when Mullen Fire pushed down through Wyoming. That was a highly populated camping area. So we knew we didn't have landlines. We knew we didn't have citizen opt-ins, and we probably didn't have a lot of people that were aware of the keyword alerts. And that fire was pushing really fast, a lot of fuels, heavy winds. And so we decided we needed to do the iPause alerts, and we worked with Incident Command, and we sent out that to get people that were camping in the area. So all of this makes up the Larimer County Emergency Alert System, and we work with our partner agencies to make decisions about when and what tools need to be sent during an emergency. So I'm going to pause for questions. Yes, sir.
Question and comment.
Yes, sir.
Have you looked at some of the other apps similar to Pulsepoint to get to the alerts out?
So Pulsepoint, different purpose.
Right.
So we actually worked with the fire chief and his department and actually all of our fire partners in Larimer County for the implementation of Pulsepoint
Mhm.
to push out those calls for service. So it's a
Right.
great app, great tool, connected in with what we call our CAD system, computer aided dispatch. So it's taking it from that information. So what will be great about that is you'll get it. If you have Pulsepoint on your phone, you're going to get it from a fire perspective. You're going to see a vegetation fire or a wildfire. You're going to get it before we even notify need evacuation. So it works in concert, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're aware of what's going on.
And I would say, although we've got constant texts before or during that evacuation expert, and the information that you sent on the text was very informative. So
Okay. Thank you for that feedback.
So I'm going to pause you just there.
Yes.
So did you hear that question, that response, folks? I saw that we need to repeat the question.
We didn't hear the question. The response is easy. It's just the questions are sometimes hard to hear.
Fantastic. Thank you for that feedback. So the question was about the Pulsepoint app and if we can use that app for emergency alerts. And Pulsepoint is directly tied to the incident that is being called in. So if you have Pulsepoint, you're going to be able to see it at the time of dispatch, which is fantastic. It gives you one step ahead of before we even have an emergency order. So I do recommend Pulsepoint being downloaded on your phone. Great question.
Any questions with our virtual audience?
I have one more. Why don't you just send WIA or Amber alerts every time? Is it too expensive?
Not at all.
Okay.
So
Can you repeat the question real quick?
yes, the question was why not send the WIA, the red on the iPause alerts every time? So it's not an exact science. And part of the concern would be if we're doing a take place in shelter, there are times that we have to use a system for a police event. And so we want to do a target alert. What happens with a cell tower, if I have a cell tower, the radius of the coverage of my cell tower may be this entire room. And maybe I only need to notify the folks in this room, not all the way out there on this floor. So to pinpoint accuracy, that's where we'll make the decision. But there's times that we can really target in and use these tools. For something that has a lot of fuel, fast burning, fast moving, we're going to be in direct conversations with Chief Wood and anybody else who is the incident command to decide we need to pull out more tools. The fear of over alerting and you getting so many, you tune it out is real. So there's a balance there. So I've been up here since 2006. I've lived through these emergencies with you. If you've been up here, probably even longer than that, some of you. So Hyde Park Fire, a lot of emergency alerts. During that fire, we did 81. Cameron Peak Fire, 276. We know it can be a saturation, so we want to make sure we get your attention at the right level of attention as needed. Kruger Rock is a great example of not using RIA because we were able to manage and pinpoint exactly what we needed with that target audience. Cameron Peak, middle of the night evacuation, sometimes early in the morning, we needed to throw everything at it right away and make sure we had that audience notified.
So it's Kruger Rock iPause then, or?
Kruger Rock was everything but iPods.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, you had one too.
I work a lot with older people
Yes, sir.
and some with disabilities. And I worry about communicating using interface to them. And some of them have cell phones, they probably know how to use them as a phone.
Yes, sir.
They have to carry it on, but they know nothing about how it works, so they cannot do a lot of these things. I worry about whether or not they're going to like the marshal.
So I have a great solution for that.
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
No,
No.
thank you for reminding
I'm
me.
sorry to be
So the question was, what do we do with a special needs population or folks that maybe need some additional assistance with evacuation? Because when they get the message, they're just not going to know exactly what to do. And we actually developed a solution for that. So it's a really take some action. So we recommend that if you are a caretaker, that you're registering to get those emergency alerts for the address of the person that you are caretaking for. Because in the citizen opt-in, in that blue box, you can go in and create an account and put in their address. So for caretakers, it would be really important to be able to create an account and have the address of the person that you're caretaking for to get that information. The other step that we do, we work really close with the Office of Emergency Management, and unfortunately, we've had a lot of experience with this. If a citizen creates their opt-in account, so we would highly recommend a population, especially if they have special needs, create an opt-in account, and there's an area when they do that, they can put down I'm oxygen dependent, I'm energy dependent, I need help evacuating, I have mobility restrictions. They can put all of that in there with their caretaker's information. What we do, if there's an evacuation, we run the report and we can see if somebody with a special needs was in that area that was evacuated. We print out a list, and with our partnership with OEM, we start calling them. And we try to reach them, and we try and reach their caretaker. Are they home? Do they need help? If they need help, we notify incident command. And from a law channel perspective, Megan will talk to the officers, or we'll talk to a firefighter, and they will go to that house. We'll send an ambulance if needed, and we will get them out. So we've gone through this process.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. We got it really bad out of nowhere. The audio just got really, really bad. It sounds really sensitive. Commissioner, I don't know if you could just reset your microphone settings briefly, or have someone help you do that, because it's almost impossible to hear.
How about now? Is that better?
No, it sounds like a bunch of wind.
I was talking to that. I got so excited.
Technical things. We had a neighbor that was very hard of hearing and very poor sighted. And if we weren't there, we didn't know how he was going to be contacted, because it had to be a person's contact. It could not be a...
Okay, it's went away.
So we had a great question about somebody who may be deaf or hard of hearing or even visually impaired, and how do they get to the emergency alerts? And so we want to work in those cases, again, have a caretaker add it into their account.
So that could be a neighbor.
It could be a neighbor, absolutely. So if you have a caretaker, a neighbor that can get that alert, knowing that they're going to need help. We can also do something called a special premise, where we can get that information if the person gives it to us. Megan can put it in her computer-aided dispatch system, and then that would pop up whenever there's a call at that person's location. So we can tackle it in two ways. We can tackle it through the emergency alert system and that blue box by having that information flagged for that person. You can tackle it by adding their address into your emergency alert profile. Megan can tackle it by putting that into a special history, special consideration in her CAD system. So we're very sensitive to that, and also working with the individual, making sure that the alert, when it goes off, that they can hear it, whatever device that they have on their phone, that they have their messages read to them. So all those accessibility tools are usually available in Android and Apple. You're welcome. And I know I took up a lot of time. So
No.
are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question? Okay. All right, ma'am, I'll turn that over to you. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Would you like to add anything? Or?
I think Kimberly did a great job of explaining all of the tools, and I'm always, I don't know if those folks can hear me.
You want to introduce yourself to them?
Sure. I'm Megan Huddy. I'm the Emergency Communication Center Manager here for Estes Park. So additional information, folks are more than welcome to email me, and I can always get that out to the group. If they have additional questions locally about how we can assist, whether it's piggybacking off of what Kimberly mentioned, or if there's something specific locally that we can do to help, or even to problem solve. If I'm given a problem or situation that is new, I'm happy to help.
How do we get your email there?
Sure.
Do you want to type it in here?
Yeah,
and
I
then
can-
and then we can
Absolutely.
write it down and pass it around. And then-
The instant message you on Facebook.
And my business card is here as well, so you can take my card before you receive my contact info. And so if you can't see it, it's MHODDE@estes.org, and that reaches me.
Okay.
And you're here physically, you're over at the police department?
Yep, we're here in Town Hall.
And how many, what's your staff?
So we currently now have 9 dispatchers. I'm the 10th person, and I'm a dispatcher as well, so I can always go out to the floor and assist at any time. Our 8th and 9th dispatcher are currently in training, The 8th dispatcher should be out of training in about 2 weeks, and our 9th dispatcher should be out in June. So we are at a level that we have not been at in years. We definitely need it, and we're so excited to have the staffing that we have.
How often do you have 2 people?
So we have a minimum staffing of 2 people from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. and that's Monday through Thursday. Friday and Saturday nights, we have double coverage until midnight. Right now with our staffing, we're able to extend it to have double coverage until at least 1:15. And with, once we have that 9th person out, we're hoping to have double coverage starting at 7 a.m. going until 2 or 3 a.m. So it'll be a very small window in the middle of the night where we maybe have one dispatch.
What's your busiest day?
The question is, what's the busiest day?
I pulled stats, trying to develop a schedule so I can attack our busiest days of the week and times of day. And if you compare it with fire and law, they don't match up. Of course they did. So, I mean, Chief Wolf could talk about when they're most busy for fire.
Saturday, 1 o'clock.
I believe.
Yeah.
AM or PM? PM. Middle of the day, when people are awake.
And if you, are you bigger here on weekends? Or
Depends on the season.
okay, but
Yeah.
summer you're much busier.
So the
Yeah.
question is when the busiest time and seasons and things like that.
Yeah, and I wish I could predict and say 100% of the time it's gonna be between, 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, but as soon as you put the schedule to accommodate that, you'll have a big fire at 4 in the morning. So. Yeah. Any additional questions?
Great, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So we're gonna have Estes Park Fire Chief David Wolf speak, and then we're gonna have, and with the CS Extension Karen, and so let me know, I'm sure Chief Wolf will repeat the questions. I'm gonna have him step closer to me over here, so.
I got some notes to make sure I hit the things I want to hit. Yeah, main thing, fire district is responsible for the 70 square miles that includes the town of Estes Park and extends out into unincorporated Larimer County. We work really closely with all our partners as far as other fire departments, LETA, our dispatch centers, law enforcement, sheriff's office, and all of those groups. We currently have a staffing of 7 full-time and 40 volunteers. Of the 7 full-time, 3 of those are dedicated to prevention, education, and those mitigation programs. And the rest of our staff is, we have 1 administrative employee and then operations and training staff. But most of our operational response comes from our volunteers. Because the questions come up a couple of times on funding. We're funded through a mix of taxing sources. We have just under 2 mils of property tax. It makes up about 40% of our budget. About 50% of our budget comes from sales tax that we get through an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Estes Park. And the remaining 10% comes from our prevention division, fee schedules, and training courses that we offer to other fire departments. So we run a regional training site here for all of our mutual aid agencies and host classes that brings people from the Estes Valley out to Denver firefighters, Wyoming firefighters come up and take training here. For emergency management, we've been working really actively with all of our partners to do planning for the last 5-6 years. Some of the major planning workshops that we started back in 2017, specifically looking at large scale wildfires and what that would look like, learning from lessons from things like the Chimney Tops 2 fire that burned in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, from things like the Paradise campfire and those incidents. So in 2017, a lot of our focus was on emergency response to those fires, evacuation planning, building out evacuation plans for the entire valley, working really closely with LETA and our dispatch center to come up with how those plans would work. Revisited in 2019 to look at those evacuation plans and then build more on a resiliency and prevention side of those plans. How do we keep these things from happening? How do we make sure that our services continue through those types of incidents? In 2020, we got a rather extensive test of those systems. They, for the most part, performed the way that we were expecting. Of course, lessons learned through those experiences that we then added to. We were fortunate to receive a few grants from groups like the International Association of Fire Chiefs to do more evacuation planning that was done through 2021 and was in place before the Cougar Mountain fire. So a lot of different plannings that went into those. A lot of work between the town of Estes Park Emergency Management, Larimer County Emergency Management, and LETA, some of those groups that I mentioned. We've got a local emergency operations center that we utilize when we have local incidents. So we'll run that either out of the event center or out of town hall as our primaries, and then utilize the county's emergency operations center as our backup. So if it's a local incident or a local component to a countywide incident, like Cameron Peak, well, we can have local command and control of that, and then working closely and stay in coordination with those other partners. As I mentioned, there's been a number of grants and grant funding that we use to try and leverage to do more planning. So the Ready, Set, Go program through International Association of Fire Chiefs has been a big one. From that, we've been able to build custom action guides for our community, all of those sorts of resources up on our website. And Austin, would you be able to pull up our website to share, or are we running the screen share from here? You're running it from there.
I can Ryan, what's the website you need me to find?
I'm going to put in the chat. So on our website, we have things like these personalized action guides. We have things like self-assessment checklists that you can do for your home for wildfire mitigation, go bag, packing list, what you should have in there, how to sign up for things like NOCO alerts, and leveraging all of those tools. They're all up on our website as well to help just amplify those messages rather than creating new things, helping spread the word of those. And then, as was mentioned, we are working on updating our community wildfire protection plan. So on our website, the two sort of sections that I want to highlight today is under the wildfire tab across the top. There's a number of resources there for living in the wildland urban interface, which is the area we live in, what that looks like, how you prepare, resources are all in there, how to get it together, a go bag. And then under prevention, we've sort of broken our prevention program into 4 different buckets, depending on our audiences. We have a residence bucket, business bucket, construction, and guests. Not surprisingly, a lot of our call volume and a lot of the people that we care for are visitors to this area, not just our locals. So we've been working to build resources specifically for those groups and get our messaging to those groups. Also through the Ready, Set, Go grant, we have things like public safety announcement videos that we put together specifically targeting our visitors, that working with the Chamber of Commerce and the lodging associations, getting that messaging out to anybody who books an Airbnb in our area. So they're getting that messaging, as well as things like NOCO alerts and EP alert messaging. And so a lot of that stuff's up on our website. And then, as was mentioned, we are working on updating our community wildfire protection plan. So community wildfire protection plan was last written for the area in 2009, working with the Watershed Coalition, with the county and the town. We're getting that update now. We contracted with the Ember Alliance to do a lot of our hazard mapping and work. And through that planning, identifying other areas where we can go even further, not just on the response side, but what kind of fuel mitigation projects should we be pursuing? How can we get the grant funding to do those, that work? And then highlighting the areas where we've already got things in place that we want to make sure we maintain. And finally, code consideration. So we've got things like the International Fire Code that is adopted by the fire district, ratified by the town and county, looking at things like the International Wildland Urban Interface Code, determining whether or not those would be appropriate for our communities as we look at them get adopted in other parts of the state and country. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
So what year of code are you doing?
Yeah, so the question is, what year of code are we dealing with? The International Fire Code is updated every 3 years. We're currently on the 2018 edition, which was in alignment with the town and the county. We're currently reviewing and planning to do an update to the 2021 code. County just updated the 21 code for the building code, residential code, et cetera. The town is planning to update to the 21 codes this summer. And so we're working to stay in alignment. So we're in sync with everybody around us.
The question, the recent Kruger fire apparently was related to a problem with the electrical infrastructure power line. I know that there have been 2 small fires near where I live associated with the transformers. And so one of the questions is, are you working closely with the power group to improve their safety?
Yes. So yeah, the question was about the electrical distribution system and how it relates to fire safety and what we're doing. So yes, we work really closely with all of our utilities, especially light and power as far as those distribution systems. Not surprisingly, to have power means we have to have an infrastructure, and then there's risks associated with that. Some things are cost prohibitive, like burying line. In Texas, it costs about $1 million per mile to bury electrical line. Here with the rock and things we have, it's about $2 million per mile. So as we have above ground infrastructure, Some of the things that our light and power agency has been very proactive in doing, such as installing tree cable, which is an insulated cable to help prevent those types of things, having pieces in that help make sure the system trips earlier when there is a break or a tree falls down on it. And they're, of course, trying to balance that safety of the system with the reliability of the system, because if every time a squirrel arcs across two lines, it loses power to all of Little Valley, we have that balance to navigate. They also do a very proactive mitigation program around their lines and trimming back as much as they can. So we talk often about how we can make that system safer, how we can help support them in getting the grants that they need. There's a lot of good stuff that came out in the recent infrastructure bill that's going to support the work that they're doing. But those conversations are going on all the time. Thank you. Absolutely.
One more quick question. How far south goes the fire district?
Yeah, so the fire district extends down a mile marker 5.5 on Highway 7, which is just north of Lily Lake. And then it's the Allens Park Fire Protection District from just north of Lily Lake down into Boulder County. Any other questions?
So the prohibited cause of bearing line is we're not going to start thinking about it.
They're buried in places like HOAs may bury it, or part of the development they bury the lines, but the cost of relocating above ground lines to all underground is cost prohibitive.
So no reason to even try for 25%. It's just we do it all, or we just don't do it.
No, it's not. They're trying to bury it where it makes sense. That's where they evaluate those risks of, if we're constantly having trees take out these lines, that would be an area they would look at and prioritize. I know that Light and Power also has a lot of risk mapping that they've done based on not just fire risk, but also how many people get impacted when we have outages and how they make those systems more robust in those particular areas. And so, yeah, that's
definitely a Light and Power, or it's a town decision, not a fire district decision.
correct. We reach out to them about areas that are concerned for us, but that's already on their radar, so that makes that really easy.
And tree cable itself is a very good way to manage
Yeah.
some of that sort of area.
Yeah, and so that's where we've seen that tree cable. A lot of the area where they prioritize tree cable has been out in the Allens Park area, because they have so many areas that are very dense forests or high risk areas. And then within the Estes Valley, there's areas that have done tree cable already. The biggest cost with that is partly the cable, but also the labor of just getting people out there to replace the systems. So we were working with them on some of those areas. The Kruger Mountain was not tree cable. That was a spot where it was more standard uninsulated cable. And so as systems are getting replaced and installed, they are moving over to that.
And in that circumstance, it was a tree that was away that fell in. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. So the question was about the Kruger Mountain fire. What triggered that? So yes, it was a tree that fell onto the line. Not surprisingly, they clear within their easement, which is typically somewhere between 5 to 10 feet on either side of the line. But any tree that's a 60-foot tall tree next to a 30-foot tall power line, when it comes down, it's going to make that connection. And on Kruger Mountain, it actually didn't start where the tree came down. It brought the lines into contact, sent the charge down the line about 200 feet, and then down a grounding cable and ignited grass at the base of the pole. And that's what started the Kruger Mountain fire. Yeah. Any other questions? Any questions online?
Any questions online?
Not yet.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Wolf. Great. I hope you can still hear us. So next I'd like to invite up a CSU Extension Agent, Karen Krumbaker, and she has been doing this work for a long time. I'm going to let her introduce herself and share her long history. And actually our Loveland community conversation, there was a family there that she had actually come on their property and helped them do some mitigation work. So I thought that was really interesting. So I'll turn it over to Karen and I'll have you step a little closer. Sure. And thank you very much for being here.
Great, thanks, Commissioner. Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Krumbaker. I'm with CSU Larimer County Extension. I love coming up to Estes Park, even on a beautiful day like today. I've done a lot of programming over the years up in Estes Park, and it's always a joy to come up here. So I'm glad you're able to join us. I've been with Extension for 16 years and with Larimer County Extension for 13 years. And the Larimer County Extension, for those of you who aren't aware, we're located in Fort Collins. We just so happen to share the county that the university is in, but we are completely separate from the university in the sense of where we're located. Extension is located in almost 60, each of the 64 counties that we have in Colorado. Like I said, we share the county that the university is in. We are part of the land grant university, and Larimer County Extension does outreach from the university. So we bring research-based information from Colorado State University out into the communities that we work in. And so I travel around the county and do provide programming. I work in the area of agriculture and natural resources, do a lot of radon outreach as well. And so I've been up here doing radon programming over the years. As far as emergency preparedness, Extension has a lot of information both within our office at Larimer County Extension and with the state office on campus to provide that research-based information to folks. And I brought a couple examples for you, which are really appropriate for the work that what we're talking about today. We do a fact sheet on financial emergency preparedness. And then part of the university is the Colorado State Forest Service, which a lot of you probably are aware of. And the Forest Service has an excellent publication on defensible space. And we did a program up here, probably 3 years ago with the fire chief. And we brought a program that we had about 30 people from Estes Park attend on looking at how to better prepare yourself for a wildfire. And again, we had a really good turnout. This is a really engaged community. So we're really happy to work with you. Yes.
And I was gonna share, the recording of that is on our website.
Oh,
Under the
perfect.
wildfire resources.
Oh, good. I know we did that.
Relay.
I don't know if you heard that, but he said the recording of that training is on the website for Estes Park Fire, that you can find that link on that for that training.
Yeah, so we were able to provide a lot of really good information to folks that live in Estes Park on how to better prepare yourself in the case of a disaster, in the case of a wildfire. So the Larimer County Extension website, we have a lot of good information that we put together, especially following the Cameron Peak wildfire. We started with the Hyde Park wildfire. So I was with Extension when Hyde Park wildfire happened. And so we started collecting information. Not all of it is from CSU, some of it is from other land grant universities, from government organizations, but it's all really pertinent, good information to help people prepare for wildfire and following a wildfire. So we look at what to do if you were located near a wildfire and flooding is a concern. So what you can depend on is that information that comes from Extension is going to be research-based information. And so if you go on Larimer County Extension's website under wildfire, you'll find a lot of information on there, for preparing for wildfire, what to do during a wildfire, and primarily what to do following a wildfire, because that's where I'm the most engaged with the community, is what do we do once a wildfire happens? How do I prepare, or you know, how do I revegetate my area? What happens with the trees? What happens with flooding? So there's a lot of really good information on there. The state site, so the website on campus has information, a lot of information on preparing, like what we have here, the financial preparedness, defensible space, as well as what to do during a wildfire or an emergency and what to do after. So there's a lot of really good information, and I really encourage you all to take advantage of that, especially if you're looking at preparedness, and get that information and take a look at it and make sure that you're prepared for any kind of a disaster. And in our case up here and throughout the county over the years, it's been wildfires. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or if I missed anything.
Quick question.
Yes.
Any solution for mistletoe? It's killing a lot of trees up here, and that is a wildfire issue for us.
One of the people.
So the question was any solution for mistletoe, and the concern is with mistletoe up here. I'm not sure. What I would suggest is take a look at the state website. So the publications. So the publication, like the financial emergency preparedness publication that I have, is a fact sheet. That extension, we have hundreds of fact sheets on a large number of topics. And so I would say, see if there's something from CSU, because it would be local. It would be state. It would be something that we look at the state. Otherwise, other universities, and I always go to universities to look for information, because you're going to get research-based information. You're not going to get opinionated or someone trying to sell you something. You're going to get research-based information. So I would say then do a search under .edu and you'll bring up information from other universities.
Thank you.
There is a Larimer County League District in that country.
Right, no, we just not having luck, so mistletoe seems to be difficult.
Okay. Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. The weed district is a fabulous resource that we have in Larimer County to help with noxious weeds and problematic weeds. And if nothing else, they may be able to guide you on what works best if you're looking at using an herbicide.
And that would be Sydney Cisneros to contact, and he's really good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions online? Okay, so I'm just going to share a couple of things about, as a commissioner perspective, the Office of Emergency Management sits right under the commissioner's office. And so it's really important, we felt, with having that response, but also it's important with recovery and resiliency. And they're doing a lot of work now with that recovery and building that resiliency work. And so I think it's not only about when things happen, it's the recovery and getting ready and being more resilient for the next time. When an incident happens, as you know, that shifts over to the sheriff's office and to emergency services under the sheriff's office. And that's a separate department that, you know, does that kind of response and works hand in hand with all of our partners and that going forward. So I want to say we have commissioners have a grant program. It's very small, but I think we've increased it quite a bit that we have available for our fire districts. There's 16 of them in Larimer County. 17. And I have to commend Chief Wolf. He does a great, fantastic job to coordinate with some of the more rural ones and mountainous ones, and they work together collaboratively. And before I was a commissioner, I watched that and I was very impressed with that. So thank you for your work there. I think we doubled it, the grant program. It's not a lot of money, but we're trying to provide that. And so we're going to try to keep that grant, that money. We're trying to make it competitive, but we're trying to have that as a grant program. So we appreciate the work that you do there. As a county, we made a move, but we had some money that we were going to target for a different program. And we moved that after the Cameron Peak Fire last year, as my first year as commissioner, into a kind of a savings account, because it's not if, but when our next disaster. And we found since 2013, even from the High Park fire, that we can respond quickly in areas of emergency by having funding and with that recovery effort, that we have shown over the last 2 decades that our county does much better and our communities do better when we can respond. As Stephen had mentioned, we're still dealing with FEMA and some things from the 2013 flood. And there's a couple of projects there, Stu. It's just the system, and we're working on that. And I know that some folks are trying to bring down some of those barriers, but just so you know, as a county, we kind of changed that a little bit, and we're making that a little bit of a response fund. It's probably not going to be enough when it comes, because it's not a lot of money. Then some of these disasters are in millions of dollars. So I want to let you know about that. The governor appointed me on the Forest Health Council, and there's 4 commissioners on that, along with other folks there from industry and fire districts and other things. There's 2 commissioners from the Front Range and 2 from the Western Slope. And we're looking at a lot of money. There's a Colorado Wildfire Strategic Action Plan fund that they're trying to get some money. The state legislature gave them some one-time money for us to get out some of these to partners like the Northern Colorado Fireshed, fire districts and regions, municipalities, even nonprofits can apply for some of this money to get out and do some mitigation work. And we're really pushing that. Actually, I was texting and calling some of the joint budget committee people to get them to double some of that money and even make it more sustainable. So we need about $200 million
to really effectively deal with some of the fire mitigation work that we need to do. And right now there's only about 6 or 10 million in there. So you can tell that it's a big problem, but there's more money than we ever have. And the Department of Agriculture also put a lot of money into Colorado, and we're at the top of the list with some other states that are getting some extra money from there to do some of this forest work. So want to make sure you're aware of that. Also, the Fire Commission and some of us on these subcommittees are looking at and I say that for some folks who are doing some planning work for the Estes Valley for the county. There's talk, I'm sure Chief Wolf has heard about this, in statewide fire state codes. And there's 5 that have been, or 6 been really talked about, and it looks like at least 2 of them are going to be reaching consensus and being put forward. So that impacts everyone, especially living up in the mountain rural areas, and I wanted to kind of get that on your radar. There's a lot of controversy with that, but there seems like it's building momentum. And so I want to make sure everyone's aware of that as well. Let's see, living in unincorporated Larimer County in the Wildfire area, actually has it there Christmas morning before the Marshall Fire. I had traveled around the mayor of Loveland on Christmas Eve. We went to all of the fire districts in Loveland and visited all the stations, and she dropped off her yearly bag of goodies for the fire crews. And I was joking, I really wanted to knock on wood, give them a quiet night. And the next morning, half a mile from my house, the house burned down to the ground and started a little grass fire around it. And it was just 2 pastures from my house. So I have to say, when I talk about this, I mean it. It's really something that's important to be educated, empowered, know what you need to do to be an engaged resident and know what you need to sign up for. There's obviously all these opportunities to be involved with. And I have to say, I'm boasting, but this is, I believe to be true. We have some of the best collaborations and partnerships and amazing professionals in Larimer County, and this system is not, and this layering of responses is like no other area in Colorado. And it's, I say that people come here to check us out, to see what we're doing and how we do it. And when we have partners like Chief Wolf, Kimberly, LETA, and CSU Extension, I mean, everywhere I go, Extension is raved about throughout the state, and the partnerships and information they provide, and the county and county commissioner supporting the Office of Emergency Management and growing that program. Lori Hodges sat on the National FEMA Commission. We're trying to get her back on because she had to rotate off. We're trying to get her back on, but she is phenomenal. She is like great, and she tells it like it is and gets things done. And so we're very blessed here, I think, to have some amazing experts and professionals. And I wanted to say, I'm really grateful for you coming up here to do this. And I guess Berthoud is planning, they heard about this and they want their own little session. So we'll try to get Berthoud Fire there too. But this is important work, and I'd much rather do it when it's snowing and wet outside and the fire danger is low than having to do it while everyone's, hopefully we never have to evacuate again. But it was amazing the work you did, Chief Wolf and the staff. And with that, I'll see if there's any other questions from folks. I know I owe you an email, David. So now you heard I was out of town, so you know why I haven't answered. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. So any questions about anything or anything else you want to add?
I just have one final comment. I did bring a weather radio. So before you leave, I was just going to do a little drawing. So if you're interested in a weather radio, please fill out a slip.
Sorry for you online.
It takes reach you on a weather radio. So,
The LETA, Kimberly Pope, is doing a drawing for those who have come in person for a weather radio. So I'm sorry for those of you that weren't able to join us. Maybe next time. I hope that we'll have these opportunities again.
you're welcome.
So those online, any other questions you have about any other? And Mayor Wendy Koenig was hoping to be here, but she is taking a well-deserved break today. And so, but I know this was an important topic for her, but she wanted to wish everyone well, and she thought this was a great opportunity to share. So, okay, no questions. All right, cool. Any other questions about any other things? Like we talked about the building codes. No questions and thanks.
I was gonna echo my wife's comments.
Oh, cool. Is that say hi, wife? Anyway, And this is an ongoing conversation. And then we're also doing this with recovery from the pandemic. We still have, the county got $69 million. We spent some of it, but we're looking at a lot of ways to help with this resiliency and recovery. And I think this is all related. And then also I wanted to bring up that we have, as a county, we're doing our Climate Smart Larimer County program. And if you can go online, Austin, if you can put that link up, that'd be great in the chat. And we're doing stakeholder outreach. This is brand new. Kind of the county trying to have stakeholder conversations with industry and municipalities and residents and business leaders about how we can work together as a region to address how we play, work, live, move, and how we need to look at that differently in terms of climate change. And this topic today is important to link to that. As I wrote in the op-ed, I think Estes Park ran that in January about emergency preparedness. I grew up and born and raised in this region, and I never thought fire season would be year round. And the Marshall fires changed all of that. I grew up with thinking that fire season was at the end of summer when things got dried out, and we were waiting for the snows to come. So we're looking for input, on these areas. And you can go to the website, there's a little QR code. And if you wouldn't mind just scanning this QR code, and maybe you should take a picture and sending it and participating in the survey. This is work is going to continue. And we're hoping that we can work with all of our partners to make sure that we're being proactive and thinking ahead on these issues. So let's see what else. I went to the National Association of Counties and for the legislative conference in February. And of course, climate change and some of this forestry stuff was big. And it's called Waters of the US, WOTUS. There's POTUS, WOTUS, all these WOTUS. So I think about Waters of the US, and there's been some changes, and some of these waterways that are in our protected watersheds are not protected now. They were changed the last few years, so we're trying to go back and see if we can bring those back into protections, because that impacts things like what can be dumped or what can be built around it. And so I'm very much actively trying to work on that. We talked a lot about that, but we also talked a lot about fires and preparedness, and behavioral health was also the big question, the big topic. So the Bayviewer Health Center is now got things coming out of the ground. We have put a lot of casings on, and we've got the metal pieces up. So if you drive by on Timberline and Wilson, or Taptail and Fort Collins, you'll see that there, and we're very excited about progress. It should open in early 2023. And we put out $2.5 million in grants again last year or this year for folks, and we're getting up our season again. And I think that some of that went into some Estes Park areas we're trying to focus this year on more youth interventions, so we'll continue to do that work. And then with some of our American Rescue Plan dollars, we had immediate needs grant. And I do think that the Estes Park, I forgot, you have to help me with the name. It's nonprofit center got some money from the county to help. Yep, we gave them some grant money for immediate needs grant to help with operations and things like that. So in that cycle, thank you for coming. Good to see you. And let's see what else. Oh, if you haven't heard, our longtime county manager, Linda Hoffman, is retiring in a couple of weeks. She started about 10 days before the High Park fire started. And she came out of community planning. And so we announced this week that Lorenda Volker who is our current assistant county manager, who Linda picked and has been working there for at least 8 years, but she's been with the county longer than that. She came out of HR. She will be our interim county manager as we do a national search. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. We are very committed to doing a stakeholder involved process and hear from folks and partners about kind of the needs and going forward and making sure we pick a good leader for 2,000 employee organization in a county that's larger than the state of Delaware. So, so really important work. Any questions about that? Yeah. So there will be a retirement party. I don't know if it's invitation only. I don't have all those details, but it's at the county building on April 5th, and that's her last day. So we had to like make her do this, so she didn't want to. So, any other questions? Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say, there's a lot of good information here, so those of you that are from Estes Park, stop by and take a look at some of the information that's important to you.
Yeah, this is a wealth of information, and yeah, lots of great information here. And I think some of this is all online, so I'm sure that if you can't get it, that Austin or someone can put some of those links from CSU and others up. So thank you all for joining online. Appreciate your time today. Thank you everybody for coming. Hope we got to do the drawing.
Gotta do the drawing. Right. Bill Brown. Hey.
You dug deep. That was the first one. Thank you. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about whether or not